Good morning, Jody.
Sharon Weber, slash of Siena Heights University, slash forever.
Well, not totally forever, but
Many years, yes. When did your journey to Siena, when is the first time you stepped on the campus of Siena Heights University? Or maybe it was college then.
oh, it definitely was college then. The truth is, I'm not quite sure I remember. At some point, a couple of the sisters from St. Stephen's brought some of us down. So that probably was sometime when I was early high school years, maybe even 8th grade. But
St. Stephen's in?
Saginaw.
Oh my.
But the first time I was on campus seriously was probably 1961 when I entered. So, and I...
Did you enter right from high school?
Right from high school.
Oh my.
Well, I came in September, so I wasn't in the big June crowd. I was later.
Yes.
So
That's nice, because they were smaller crowds then.
they were
weren't
smaller crowds. You got to do a whole year of college before you became a novice, and then it was a blessing. And
Well, how did you ever get to the Saginaw area? Were you born there?
I was born in Detroit. My mother and dad were from Putnam County, Ohio, but Dad had taken a job with a window company in Detroit, and before they married, and so I was born in Detroit. We moved to Buffalo.
East side or west side?
We left there when I was a year old.
Oh, okay.
I think it was west side, but on the other hand, I was too young to know.
Yes. You hadn't started school yet.
No.
It was the next year you.
Not quite. When I was about a year, I think we moved to Buffalo, New York. When I was 8, we moved to Moorestown, New Jersey, just across the river from Philadelphia. And when I was 12, we moved back to Michigan, to Saginaw.
So you had been in quite a few schools by that time.
Yes.
For your education. So when you moved to Saginaw, what grade were you in?
8th grade.
8th grade. That's when you first met our sister.
Yes, Sister Mary Paula,
Oh, Paula.
at St. Stephen's. She was the 8th grade teacher and the principal.
Well, lucky you.
And it's absolutely true. She was a woman with a great sense of humor, and she inspired me.
And you saw the joy of the sisters, I bet. There were a lot of young
Yes,
sisters
because
there.
it was a grade school, so there were a lot of young sisters, and it was a very happy place. So, and I think that's what planted the seed for the Adrian Dominicans.
Weren't they smart, though, to have a tour of the campus when, with young women
Yes,
from Saginaw to the Mother House?
it's true.
Yes. Not only to show you the university, college at that time, but the grounds, the chapel, I bet that was impressive.
Yes, I think it was more for the Mother House than the college, really, although I'm sure we were on the grounds. So.
Yes. So, what did you end up majoring in during your studies as a postulant and novice and junior professed?
I majored in chemistry, and I have to credit that to a Grand Rapids Dominican who was my chemistry teacher in high school. She got me interested in.
Sparked that.
That's right. But when we were asked what we wanted to major in, I don't think there were a lot of people standing in line to major in chemistry. So I.
They were happy to. Sister
That's right.
Bertha. Didn't she have an office right there in the college?
Oh yes, Sister Bertha. Yes.
And Sister Mary George. What?
Yes.
I forget what she.
She was treasurer, I believe.
Treasurer. Yes. Oh my. And was Sister Petronella the president at the time?
Yes, I think so.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think maybe Sister Benedicta Marie was president when I first became a postulant and was a student there.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember that I knew very little. I'm first generation in college in my family. And shortly after we arrived, after I had entered, we were told we were going over to the college to hear the president's address. Now, John Kennedy had just been born. I didn't know that colleges had presidents instead of principals, and so Sister Benedicta Marie she gave a very fine address. She just was a little disappointment when I had expected John Kennedy.
Just a little. Yeah. So when you finished, you were probably about 10 years older when you finished.
Almost, yes.
Almost, yes. And did you start teaching at Siena right away?
No, after my novitiate, I went out and was in first grade at St. Mary's and St. Teresa's in the Detroit area, Royal Oak in Detroit. And, and then I had 1 year in 7th grade. I had some great times. I learned much from those little children.
Yeah.
In both places. And then I was sent.
Tapped on the shoulder.
Tapped on the shoulder to go to graduate school. So I went to U of M. Spent a couple years of that time in Germany, but then I came back to Siena. So in 74.
Oh my. So you studied at Harvard?
I studied at U of M. The Harvard of the Midwest. No.
Well, it is truly of the Midwest.
Well, I'm not really sure that that's true. And when I had gotten into my research, my research advisor had taken a job at a university in Konstanz. He was a German by birth. And so
he was leaving you high and dry.
Well, or that, or taking us along, his graduate students that were in the research group. So several of us spent some time in Konstanz where they were just establishing a new chemistry program. So the German system of study was very different than ours, and he was doing some melding between the two systems. So it was a wonderful experience in a lot of ways, challenging in a lot of ways.
Well, learning a language.
Yes, although I had studied some German in college. Speaking it was a different issue.
Sister Samuel?
Yes, but I think I had her for physics, actually.
Oh, no.
Sister Regina Marie, Sister Ann Bernadette, I think were my German teachers.
And who were your science teachers when you were at Siena?
At Siena, Miriam Stimson, Irma Gerber, and then we did a lot of summer school. So I think I had Sister Bernard Lynch.
That's okay. The experience in Germany must have been really stretching.
It was in many ways, yes. Yeah.
Did you take time to travel on the weekends?
Well, not every weekend, but a bit of travel and at various times. I had visits from the family and some friends over there, so we did some travel.
Well, when you came back to Siena, who on the staff at Siena took you under her wing?
Well, Sister Irma, who was the chemistry department at that point in history. Departments were a little smaller in science then than they are now. Well, Sister Mary Louise Hall, who told me when I would write memos that I wrote like a scientist. And I wasn't sure what else I should write like at that point, but it was. So I think most of the sisters were really, in a sense, a community of support for the young ones among us.
There were some superb teachers.
There were excellent teachers, yes.
You know, Sister, your guide.
Miriam, Irma.
Irma, yes. Forgive me, Sister Irma. But, you know, she's on our 3rd floor here at Maria. If we could have her right here, what would you like to say to her?
Well, I'd like to say thank you.
Yeah.
You know, not only for her kind of helping me get used to the notion of how you teach and what the community of faculty was like at Siena when I was first there, but also she was one of my teachers in physical chemistry, and so she had a big part in shaping who I was as a scientist also. So.
And becoming a colleague, too.
That's right.
Yes, yes. She's the most gentle soul that I know, yes. And to know that she carries all that rich history within her is wonderful. Did you have a science department, or was it a just a chemistry department?
At the time when I arrived, there were 4 faculty in what at the time was called the Natural Science Division, which included 1 biologist, Irma and myself, who were both chemists, and Carol Poucher, who taught mathematics. Those 4 people were the science division at Siena at that point in history.
Oh my.
So we had a lot of various experiences.
So you've worn many hats at Siena through the years. How many years altogether?
Well, 74 till now, minus the 7 years, 6 on the council and then a sabbatical after that, so 36.
36 years. So the new building's going to be named the Weber?
I think at the moment there is not a new building precisely planned.
Well, we already have a...
We have a Weber Center, yes. I do say when a freshman looks at the name of that building and looks at me and looks back at the name, if they don't ask, I don't say it's named for Mother Genevieve. If they ask, I'll tell them.
But they make that...
They can make that decision if they want.
You had the privilege of living with Eileen Rice.
I did.
Yes. How would you describe her to those who unfortunately have not had the experience of knowing Eileen?
Well, you know, there are some questions about whether people can truly multitask. I think if anybody could, it would have been Eileen. She could think in enormous numbers of ways at the same time. She would go to, she was not big into exercise and sport, but she would go to the games because her students were playing. But she would be checking papers during the basketball games, things like that. She cared deeply about her discipline and about her students, and that was totally clear to them. And I think that was, and she made an impact on the state of Michigan at the time when she was directing our education program, the educational program in the state of Michigan, I would say.
Well, they named a little street for her, which is no longer there, right?
Right. It was kind of a driveway into a big parking lot, but that's been supplanted now.
Will you ever forget the day she died?
I will not.
January day.
January 10th, bitter, bitter cold, hoarfrost on. It was gorgeous. The sun came up and sparkled on the trees.
Yeah, hard time.
It was.
Time, yes. And then Pat Schnapp was living with you at the time?
Yes, she was.
Yes. And she's a charity, is that right?
Mercy.
Mercy Nun, yes, and taught at Siena.
Right.
And who were the other sisters living with you at the time?
At that time, Mary Pat Dewey and Annette Sinagra. I think that was the community.
And you no longer live in what was called the Oakwood House, right? Right
True.
at the corner
Of Oakwood and Siena Heights, yeah.
Fifth Avenue and Hollywood Boulevard.
That's right, or State Madison or something.
Was there ever a garage there?
Well, there was a building that looked like a garage. It was kind of an old carriage house out behind, which Siena was using to store things in. So we never used it as a garage, really. So
that's where you kept the rakes for the community leaf raking every fall.
No, those were in the basement of the house.
But that was a brilliant idea to bring the sisters from over here to your house and rake the leaves.
That's right. In those early days, we had a lot of trees on that property, and our sisters were down here, and it was fall, and it was beautiful weather, and we just didn't want sisters to be deprived of the opportunity to rake leaves.
I think
besides, that helped.
I think they went because you served food.
Well, that too.
that helped. And where are you living today? Because I know that that home has been abandoned.
Well, we moved. Barb Kelly and I were the last 2 folks in the house, and we moved because the congregation asked us to come down to Norwich House, which had been empty for a year. So And we were hoping to grow the size of the community, and the move allowed us to now live, also the two of us, with Joanne Peters. So that's been delightful.
Nice. That's nice. And I want to thank you, Sharon, for your 6 years on the General Council. Those were exciting years for everybody. There were changes as a result of Vatican II. Did Nadine Foley and Linda Bevilacqua and
Attracta Kelly and Donna Markham and myself were the 5 of us at that time.
And the women's movement was going strongly at that point too, wasn't it?
I think so.
Know Nadine was involved in that.
Right.
And you were the administrator.
No, Linda was administrator.
Linda, yes.
I was vicaress, but
Yes, that's what I intended to say. I'm sorry, vicaress.
it's okay.
That's the strangest name.
It is. But, you know, it's always kind of good to keep people wondering when you say things like that.
Did you ever get to the Philippines during your 6 years?
I did. I think in 1990, the sisters in the Philippines celebrated their 25th anniversary. And so Nadine and myself and Mary Phillip and Marcine and Ellen Vincent, I believe, went to help with the celebration. When I entered in 1961, the first 3 Filipina sisters came to Adrian. At that time, Esperanza was still in the congregation, still living. And so we kind of were in the same crowd. Not precisely because she got to stay in formation longer than I did. But
do you recall how many there were in their congregation?
At that time, in 1990, I think in the 30s someplace. I'm not totally sure, but about that.
Well, obviously, Sister Mary Phillips' heart was there, wasn't it? And,
yes.
And they had captured her heart, the sisters, the Remedy sisters, they were called.
That's true.
Correct?
And Marcine's.
And Marcine's, yes. Oh, aren't we lucky to have that merge now with them?
I think so.
Yes. Did you know at that time Sister Zenaida?
Well, I met her during that trip.
And that there's going to be a turnover soon, isn't there?
I understand that Easter time they're having a chapter with an election of a new chapter prioress, yes.
Well, that'll be exciting for them, won't it?
It will.
Yes. I do recall I was on campus at the time when you came back from the Philippines, that Sister Nadine got very ill. But you survived?
I did. Well, I think all of us actually survived, including Nadine. But
Sharon, going back to Siena, the many hats that you wore. So you were, first of all, a professor.
Yes.
Did they call you an intern professor, or was
I
professor
guess
right
I
away?
started at instructor and promoted to assistant and associate. That's still my rank.
Did you have the title of chair of
the division?
The division.
Those 4 people that we're talking about. Although there were some changes in who those 4 people were. Sister Irma left and Sister Helen Duggan came, and actually everybody but me turned over within those early years. But then there has been some real stability among some of the folks that were there when I was in those 70s. So
was it fascinating to work with Sister Miriam Michael?
When I got to Siena, Miriam was at Cuca College teaching chemistry. And she came back there to be the graduate director. And a little bit I worried about kind of having her looking over my shoulder. I would have to say Miriam let go of that science situation. Now, she never stopped dropping off on my chair little articles out of important newspapers for me to read. But I do not believe she ever interfered in any way or said, you know, you should have done this better.
Yeah.
She just was astounding to me in that way.
Remarkable.
Yes.
She did the same thing for Sister Donna when she was she was prioress of the congregation. And you remember Dr. John Bobian?
I didn't know him as well,
chiropractor.
but yes.
She would do the same.
Mhm. Oh, I'm sure.
Yes.
She
always.
Yes. She
Always
wanted
educating.
us all up to date.
Yes. And well educated. All right, chair of the
Chair of the division. I was at one point acting dean of the graduate college. I was acting dean for a little while before I was on the council. At one point I thought maybe they should give me a degree in theater because I was acting at so many things. And then when I went back, I did a little stint for a little bit as kind of interim director of financial aid. And, but then dean of the College of Arts and Sciences and now VP for.
Dean of the College of Arts and Science.
Right.
That means hiring professors, correct?
Well,
curriculum.
yes, overseeing faculty and curriculum. The faculty have the responsibility for hiring and curriculum, and so it's just encouraging them to do things in the best way possible.
Did you start any new programs when you were the dean?
Either as dean or as vice president, we've done, yes, a variety of new programs. I was dean 20 years or so, I mean, some of the more interesting recent ones were nursing, which was now 10 years probably. And we're into a development of an engineering program with the University of North Dakota, interestingly. But kind of looking at maybe some environmental engineering. And then we're just kicking off a master's in business administration that will be totally online. We just got word that our online program is being ranked by U.S. News and World Report as tied for number 23 in the nation.
Wow.
Top in the state of Michigan. So,
congratulations.
Thank you. That's not all my doing.
Well,
there are a whole lot of
takes
folks
a lot.
involved in that.
Yes.
So, and along the way, a variety of other programs have surfaced.
And what is your title today?
Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Well, that keeps you on your toes.
I hope so.
You never tire.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Right.
I've slept through Jeopardy quite often lately.
And you probably know all the answers too, Sharon.
No.
I wouldn't be.
Depends on the
surprised.
topic.
Yes. When you look at all the presidents under whom you have served, the first would have been,
Hugh Thompson.
he was the first layman,
president.
wasn't he? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He kind of followed Dick Raymond was an interim right after Petronella's accident, but he was the first full-time lay president, yes.
And he continued, he's still among us, isn't he?
No, not, within the last couple of years, I think I remember seeing a notice that he had died.
Died, okay. And Hugh and...
Lou Vaccaro, who is still with us, Kathleen Reel, and then Rick Artman, and now Peg.
Peg, yes. And Sister Nadine Foley was an interim, as I
Yes, between Kathleen and Rick Artman.
Mm-hmm. I can't imagine how many honorary programs you've been to, or you've had to speak at a baccalaureate or at the honors assembly. I mean, numerous times. Does one stand out?
Yes, I would like to tell a story about one event and then a connection. And this was probably a scholarship luncheon for Hispanic students at some point in history, where the 3 colleges in town all had a little welcome. And I might have given the welcome from Siena as a substitute, or I might not have. But I remember Dan Phelan was president, and still is, of Jackson Community College. And he welcomed the students, and he said, you know, sometimes when you're eating an apple, you might say, gee, I wonder how many seeds there are in this apple. Or this apple has a lot of seeds in it. But he said, have we ever stopped to think about how many apples there are in a seed?
Wow.
And then a few years later, about 5 years ago now maybe, there is between Weber Center and the Science Building, this, you know, it's got those levels and cement and steps. It's just not a very garden-friendly area in a lot of ways, but there is one apple tree that is really old. And about 5 years ago, it was overburdened with apples. And I passed it one day, and I had some interaction with our biology teacher around it, but good interaction. But as I looked at that tree, it reminded me, because of where it was, just off to the west, of the story about Mother Gerald or Mother Camilla. It would have been Mother Camilla, wanting that property for the college, but the farmer didn't want to sell it because the students were taking apples from his orchard. Do you remember that story?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, my.
Whether that is myth or how much of it is myth, but nonetheless, that tree had to be sitting about where that orchard must have been. And it was overladen with apples. The number of apples that had to have been on that tree over the years was multiple. And it reminded me of what Dan Phelan had said. And it reminded me of what we as Adrian Dominicans have planted by way of seeds in that institution, in all of our institutions. And as we have alums coming back, as we hear the stories of what has happened as a result of what we have planted, that tree, I think, is very significant.
I'm going to take a pilgrimage there, really. God bless you for sharing that. That's quite powerful.
Well, and I connived our photographer into taking a picture. Now, it's not gorgeous because it's got a transformer behind it and a lot of other things, but I sent it to you this morning.
Oh, did you? Oh,
I did.
thank
Okay.
you, thank you, thank you.
So.
I will share that. Heather and Jan, that's a beautiful story for everyone to know, so thank you for sharing that. And thank you for your time this morning. Is there, I know you have some dear sisters and a brother, correct?
I have one sister and two brothers.
Two brothers. Mm-hmm.
My sister is in Ashland with her family. Well, Ashland, Ohio. Her family has grown, and they're in other places. My next brother is in Florida with his wife. And my youngest is still in Saginaw, and he has family spread around up there.
Well, I would go for the brother in Florida right now.
I think that actually they've had a little cool weather down there too. So.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you, and thank you for not only your service to the congregation, but also you are the glue at Siena of the sisters' presence for so many years. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jody, and thank you for what you do in this effort. I think it's very important, so thank you.